the ancient world of Megiddo as it was 158 million years ago. This is the age when the advanced civilizations existed, and it is also the age when the 7 tribes of the Atlanteans began the migration which had taken them from their homelands and then through the continental drift scattered them into the regions of India, South America, Germany, Africa and so on. At this moment in Earth's history there were a myriad of human subspecies as well as remnant species of dinosaurs, including hybrid species of dinosaurs that we carried with us. Descriptions of these hybrid species as the creatures of many of our legends and folklore today. The main subspecies of mankind were referred to in our legends and myths as the races of elves, goblins, ogres, fairies and dwarves. The hybrid dinosaurs, such as dragons for example, were a hybrid cross-species of the velociraptor and pterodactyls that grew to giant proportions but lacked the social skills to breed in great numbers, so they remained a slightly rare species. Despite the legends, there were no actual fire-breathing dragons, but they did grow 30 to 35 feet in height and 20 feet in length and weighed probably close 350 pounds upon average adulthood. They could not take flight from a still position on a flat plateau. Their weight was not supportive for that kind of flight. They would instead scale the side of mountains where they could launch themselves into a glided flight for short distances. A trait they developed from their velociraptor genes. Their skeletal structure was quite light, allowing their ability to fly. However, if they were chasing after food that was quick to avoid them and they dodged too many attempts to snatch them up, the dragon's momentum in flight sometimes would become too fast and the wind shear against their wings would cause the dragon's wing bone structure to snap under the immense air pressure, thus grounding it. This usually meant death to the dragon because, as ferocious as it was even on the ground, meant nothing to multiple attackers, and more often than anything else the dragon would end up dying due to infection once their wings had been broken. Also, this issue kept them from high altitude mountains, as the same issue would happen if they took flight from too high of a point. Another alternate feature that has varied from the current day lifestyle is that of magic and its effect on the subhuman species of that era. In particular the Native American culture, who derived from this ancient culture of mankind. Known for their reputation of shamanistic beliefs and connection to the spirits of the earth, as well as their empathic connection to the animals. In this era they were known as the mythical elves, who they share still today that empathic quality of their ancestral origin. Back 158 million years ago, however, the Earth was much younger and the geological condition of what we call the Schumann resonance was much stronger and profound than it is today. Back then the kinetic wave pattern had a much more defined effect on the physical bodies of those who lived upon certain regions where the sound wave frequency of 7.83 MHz would breach the surface of the planet's crust and transition from sound waves to kinetic energy with electromagnetic effects as it rose into our atmosphere, creating our magnetosphere shield that blocks the solar radiation and allows life to safely exist and continue on the planet's surface. This energy pattern originates within the planet's core and is the natural gravitational wave that is produced by the fusing photon particles within the inner core of our planet and is distributed outward by our rotation. When it reaches the solid crust of our sedimentary layers, the gravitational wave transitions into sound waves because of its passage through the solid matter. The sound wave then is bounced off of the natural elements within our soil, causing the sound waves to alter direction until they merge with other sound wave patterns that eventually create what can be described as the life stream of the planet because of the flowing merged waves' resemblance to the veins within the body. Then those life streams eventually breach the surface, causing another transition into kinetic energy waves. The Native Americans' ancestors were the first to discover this pattern and harnessed its effect it had on generations that lived upon these breach points, which they had called mana pools. Though in modern translation this effect could be compared to that of someone living next to a high voltage power line, the ancestors, which I will refer to as the elves for now, discovered that the ones living there would develop a direct connection to the Earth's geological states such as weather patterns, natural disasters, air pressure changes and barometric conditions. It is this cultural feature that brought them to learn of the impending disaster to come, and it's what led them to begin migrating in the first place. They had a set plan of migration which ended with them coming back to their homelands one day, which was right here in North America originally, but after ages of continental drifting, reaching that homeland seemed impossible. Eventually they did return home, but only to be chased off and pushed to extinction by us in our colonization of America. Some even could directly affect weather conditions or even cause them, depending on conditions of saturation levels of the mana pool energy in the individual, extent of knowledge they possessed on geological conditions and patterns and such. They were very possessive about who held the knowledge of these topics and did not approve of outsiders from their culture attaining the details of their beliefs. They were known to even kill any who dared try to acquire this knowledge, especially any who would try and record its techniques into personal or public works of writing. They were not the only subhuman species to have knowledge of what is referred now to as magic. Other cultures such as the goblins held their version of this energy and its effects. The goblins, whose culture survived most of the catastrophes of the planet by taking refuge into the caverns and mountains that went deep underground, existed in the regions of what is today China. It is the reason as to why their culture has such a different skin pigmentation as well as their skulls' altered skeletal structure. Many generations of existing in the subterranean reaches of the earth without sunlight and other conditions of the surface caused them to eventually develop different physical attributes. Their culture survived the era of Earth's history when major volcanic activity had eliminated most all other life on the surface. They filtered the poisonous air through steamed water vents they would make around natural hot springs that would form pockets under the surface. They would then circulate the fresh steamed air through vent shafts like they have inside the pyramids, which is actually the reason they created them in the pyramids, steamed water air ventilation shafts to purify the air quality should the need rise to escape the surface because of contaminated air quality. But shush. Don't tell the archaeologists that it would ruin the entertainment of watching them chase their own tails in circles, tried to find the purpose of them. Eventually the goblins came to the surface again, but many generations of sensitivity to the sunlight was endured before they developed the ability to walk in the sunlight again. Their culture believed that the mana pools could be altered and different effects could be reached through alchemical methods of merging different natural elements and fusing them together to alter the mana pool's effect. They figured if it transitions while passing through the crust and again when breaching the surface, then if they could cause it to transition again through solid natural elements, the same effect could occur, and depending on what elements it passed through would define what effect occurred. In this method they were correct, and thus was not only the origin of what would become known as alchemy but also today's current biological, geological and pharmaceutical research processes, which all derive from the methods of alchemy as well as agricultural farming methods too. Another lost fact to the world is that demonic magic has its sources within the art of ancient goblin magic, as their power lies in the fusion of spiritual or neurological energy with various elemental energy and even other life forms spiritual energy. But shush. We don't want to spoil the fun of the Vatican priests' screams of prayer and poetry that never usually works because they're missing that key element of knowledge when combating the forces of darkness. The map included in this shows the formation of the continents during this era. It was at this stage in history is when the Aztlanteans would have their last chance to cross the natural land bridge that brought them to the continents of what would become South America, India, Antarctica and Africa. Then about 85,000 years ago all that came to an abrupt end with the eruption of Mount Toba in Indonesia. It was known as the Age of Darkness when the ash clouds became so thick that it blocked the sunlight and poisoned the air and seas. It erupted along with the 9 mountains of the Ring of Fire for 150 days straight. In the aftermath came the Necromancer Wars, where scavenger groups of survivors fought each other for the dwindling supplies for survival, and the knowledge of magic, its ways and intricate details became lost to destruction as animal and human alike struggled to be on the top of the food chain. Us Homo sapiens were the winners of that war. But there are still surviving species of those ancient days left. The Neanderthal, who were the ogres, eventually became the people of Russia. The dwarves or the Homo erectus became what is now the people of Scandinavia and Scotland. The fairies and their cousins the pixies, who were so saturated in mana pool energy that it altered their physical structure drastically, eventually became the Celtic and people of Ireland. One of those drastic features can still be found in the blood type known as Rh negative, and a common hereditary quality of it is found in the ones known as gingers, which is usually noticeable by their red hair, freckles and light skin pigmentation, as well as their soulless insides and vampiric natural thirst to suck the souls of people clean from their still living carcass. I'm just kidding about that last part. Ha 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 ... or am I? Ha ha ha.